All right. Hello and welcome to today's episode where we're going to continue our series on intrusive thoughts and specifically talk about sexual intrusive thoughts. Real quick, those of you who don't know me, my name is Matt Cotty and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the founder of Restored Minds. And if you benefit from the show or like this content, please help us out by liking, subscribing, and leaving a nice review on iTunes and Spotify. And if you are looking for help on your journey to recovery from OCD and anxiety and really breaking out the loop, feel free to visit us over at restoredminds.com or check out the links in the notes where you'll have access to several resources to get started. So, with that said, let's go ahead and dive in. So, sexual intrusive thoughts. Let's go ahead and kind of define what we're talking about here. And again, this is building upon all our series on intrusive thoughts. So please make sure you go through the series if you haven't already. But when we're talking about sexual intrusive thoughts, what we're talking about is unwanted images or thoughts, could be phrases or words or sentences that are kind of intruding, again, a person's awareness. So these thoughts they're very different than the idea of sexual fantasies where the person enjoys or is engaging in the thinking about these ideas. These are thoughts that are popping up. They're unwanted, they're intrusive, they're invasive, they're very distressing to the individual. They're things that don't cause the individual again, sexual pleasure or sexual arousal. So that's the differentiation between what we're talking about. And so when we're talking and coming back to the same idea of like the dominant energy field or emotional state, these thoughts are fueled by the energy of fear and the emotion of fear versus the energy of desire would be more of a sexual fantasy. And so really being able to compartmentalize the idea of what feeling and dominant energy state the person's experiencing from these thoughts is how we're able to determine, a sexual intrusive thought versus let's say a sexual fantasy. So just wanted to kind of distinct that real quick. And so when someone's experiencing sexual intrusive thoughts, what happens is they have these intrusive thoughts that pop up, and they can go on in any kind of manifestation you can imagine, right? It could be sexual intrusive thoughts about again, your significant other's sexual past, right? And so like a retroactive jealousy of like having imagery of your significant other with someone else could be very distressing, right? It could be sexual intrusive thoughts towards loved ones, right? Towards people in your family, towards people at work, right? That you don't want to have. It could just be, again, the questioning of one's sexual orientation. So whether it's you identify as heterosexual, it might be like, well, what if I'm actually gay? Or if you identify as homosexual, it could be like, what if I'm actually straight, right? Or anything on that spectrum, as you can imagine. What if I'm transgender, right? Things like that. And so the doubt and the fear that corresponds with that is really the underlying energy that we're talking about there, the doubt and uncertainty that comes with it. And then, like I said, it can pop up as imagery, be triggered by certain situations, all of this stuff. So when it comes to the intrusive thoughts themselves, there's really nothing off limits. It's kind of in that taboo subject, right? Where it's like as you can imagine, it could be towards animals and all this other stuff. The intrusive thoughts themselves, the content of them, the thoughts themselves, is not really the problem that we're aiming to deal with. And so most people, they try to again address the thoughts, address the contents of the thoughts, and what happens is they end up engaging in compulsive behaviors, usually unbeknownst to themselves. So with OCD, you have the four components of the thought, the uncomfortable sensation, the safety behavior or compulsion, and then the relief. With sexual intrusive thoughts, a lot of the compulsions that people are engaging in are things like ruminating and analyzing the content of the thought, trying to figure something out, like going through their past, and analyzing their past. It also could be analyzing bodily sensations. So a lot of times, let's say someone who is having intrusive thoughts, like what if I'm, questioning their sexual orientation? Well, what will happen is they'll go through their day constantly analyzing whether or not they're attracted to every individual. So if they're usually attracted to women, they might look at women and figure out if they're attracted, or they'll look at men and say, am I attracted to this person? And they'll be analyzing their body and oftentimes checking like their groin to see if there was any sensations or movement, quote unquote, that would indicate sexual arousal. So that's a big compulsion. It could be avoiding movies. It could be avoiding things that have like sex scenes in them. It could be avoiding intimacy altogether. So avoidance is a big one. Checking, like I said, getting reassurance, right? Googling, checking, asking your therapist, asking your loved ones, asking people in your life, and getting reassurance are also big forms of compulsions. So these compulsions can take on a wide range of things. And the point that I really want to stress with sexual intrusive thoughts is you have to understand it contextually, right? So everything, how you do something very much depends on the context, right? The intrusive thought itself, in the context of OCD, the intrusive thought itself is not the issue. The loop itself is. And so what we need to do is actually remove all the compulsions and actually allow the person to confront the energy and the emotion of fear that they're experiencing. And the energy and the emotion of fear is actually fueling the thoughts. So once we confront and release a lot of the fear that's in the system, it takes away from the pressure of the loop. And then more importantly, once the person's able to get out of the like kind of that lens of fear, they're usually able to see very clearly who they really are, what they really desire, and know who they are very confidently. So if we try to go work at it from a thought perspective, though, the irony is it tends to create more confusion and more chaos for the individual. That's why it's so important with intrusive thoughts that we're working at the problem correctly, and in this case, making sure we're really working at it from a loop perspective. So, and what that means is really making sure we're eliminating all compulsions. And so hope that makes sense, and hope that was helpful in just kind of understanding the idea of sexual intrusive thoughts and all the different manifestations that can take place. And so again, if you're looking for help and guidance on your own path to recovery, and this is something you're dealing with, head on over to Restored Minds or click the link in the notes, just because we have some great resources and guidance to help you with that. So with that, wish you a great day, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Hey there. So if you enjoyed that video, we've linked up a few more videos that we think you'd find helpful as well. And if you have found this helpful, we'd really appreciate your support by liking and subscribing. And if you're looking for help and guidance, please check out restoredminds.com, as we have several options for you to get started. See you guys soon.